It's still technically winter here in Texas, Zone 8B, but if you haven't planted certain fruits and vegetables yet, you're behind schedule. In this video, we're going to tell you the planting dates for common fruits and vegetables for a southern garden in Zone 8B. We're also going to tell you their average times to germination and whether you should start them indoors or outdoors. So behind us, we have already planted our onions and potatoes. Those need to get in the ground by February 1st. And of course, in both cases, you're going to direct sow them. So even earlier than our onions and potatoes, we have put English peas in the ground. Those need to get in the ground about mid-January. They hate the warm weather here in the summertime. You want to get your harvest in the spring. So that is the first thing that you're going to put in your spring garden in Zone 8B. Now for garlic, it's a little bit different. Garlic takes a very long time to grow, about 9 months. So for us to do a early summer harvest, we usually plant it in October. We've done entire videos about how to plant and harvest garlic. You can click the card at the top of the screen to go see those. Now another vegetable to direct sow in your garden by February 1st are carrots. And another one to do by February 1st is collard greens. Now, some people direct sow them in the garden, including us. It's always worked well for us here in the South. But some people start them inside. If you want to start them inside, you need to do that in early January. Now in this bed, we've got our kale and Swiss chard. Now usually we start chard inside, but direct sow kale like we direct sow collard greens. You can start them inside if you want. If you're going to do that, you need to start them all around mid-January. Now you're going to say, well, I'm behind already, but do not worry. We plant these in, if we start them inside on time, we plant these in around the 15th of February. But kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, they all do not mind the heat and they don't mind the cold. They're very, very hardy and tolerant. They're tolerant of heat and cold. Now, if you didn't know, Swiss chard is a perennial. These have been in the garden for about 3 years. We will be adding new ones this year because they're starting to not look too great. But kale and collards are biennials, so you will get 2 years out of both of those. This is one of my favorites right here. This is Nero di Toscana, which technically is a cabbage, they call it, but as you can see, looks like kale, and it tastes like kale, so I call it a kale. But they're all in the same family. Now, if you have strawberries in your garden, remember, they like to be thinned and the roots agitated and replanted. So if you're going to do that, you need to do that while they are dormant. This is the perfect time of year. If you haven't seen our video on how to 5 times your strawberry plants, click on the card up above. And if you're interested, we're going to be selling some of these seascape strawberries. Hit me up with an email at countrylivingexperience@gmail.com. So we are doing this video in conjunction with a video we just released about the mistakes made when starting seeds indoors. You really need to check that out. We also have a full tutorial about how to plant seeds indoors. And in the garden bed behind us, we are going to be planting melons and squash, corn and pole beans. Now the pole beans and corn are going to be direct sown, and those need to be done in early March, right around the first week of March. So for our melons and squash, we do direct sow them sometimes and we start them indoors sometimes. It all depends. It's worked for us both ways. If you're going to direct sow them in the garden, you need to do that on about March 15th when the soil temperature comes up a bit. If you would like to start them inside and grow transplants, you need to do that on February 12th, and they take about 5 to 10 days to germinate. So let's talk about probably the most popular home gardening or homesteading fruit that there is, tomatoes. Tomatoes are great. They're really easy to grow. And in Zone 8B, you will transplant them out into your garden on about March 15th. So they have about a 5 to 10 day germination rate, and to get the plants a proper size, you need to start them inside on about February 5th. Another really common vegetable in anyone's garden are cucumbers. Now cucumbers can be direct sown. Some people like to start them inside. If you start them inside, start them about the same time that you do your squash and your melons, right around the 12th of February in Zone 8B. But cucumbers like it a little bit warmer outside. So we usually wait till about March 25th to the end or end of March or beginning of April to bring them outside and transplant them. If you're going to direct sow, do it when that soil's a little bit warmer, which is about the end of March. Now the next 3 are 2 fruits and a vegetable, and they're all going to be planted at the same time on April 1st in the garden. The first one is okra. We always direct sow okra. You can do it as a transplant, but we found that here in the south in zone 8B, direct sowing the okra works really well. Now come the 2 toughest ones, eggplants and peppers. Eggplant usually take between 7 and 14 days to germinate, usually on the high end of that, and the peppers take up to 21 days to germinate. It's really a long time to wait, and their growth is very slow indoors. So if you haven't seen our video on how to transplant your peppers indoors for the winter time, go watch that video, because we've got a couple that we are going to plant back in the garden this year. A pepper plant is actually a perennial. A lot of people don't know that because they die off under 50 degrees outside. But if you can save them, because it takes a new pepper plant a long time to get established out in the garden in the spring. So for eggplants and peppers, for that April 1st planting out in the garden, make sure you start them indoors on about February 12th. Now friends, I know what you're saying. Hey, you didn't cover this fruit or this vegetable. I know guys, there's just no way that I can cover absolutely everything in this video. You just found out what we are planting in our garden this year. So for us to get started out here, we used the Texas A&M AgriLife charts for East Texas and this area to understand the planting dates for everything. Those are a really big help. You should go check those out. But we found out that those planting dates and those frost dates that are the norm usually do not hit on the dates that they say they are going to, which is why, as we talked about in our other video about seed starting, we do what's called holding back. So we'll plant out half of our plants on the scheduled date, and we'll hold back half for maybe a week to see how the weather goes. Make sure that you do that, because if you get a frost, a late frost, and you've put out every single tomato plant that you had growing inside, you probably are not going to have tomatoes that year in the garden. So if you have any questions, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. Now I want you to go check out this video right here, which shows you exactly how big you need to make your garden for a family of 4. Have a great day. We love you. See you next time. Bye.